good evening and welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Mac and it's a warm welcome to yourselves. Join us back here on the channel once again for another chat about all things Celtic and looking back at what was the return of the Mart, which was, of course, a 4-0 hammering. It was kind of funny because he liked a wee 4-0. Paddy likes a 4-0. I'm sure you like a 4-0, Stevie. I'm sure every single one of you is out there also watching like a 4-0. But yes, as it says there, the joy of simple football. Back to basics destroys Dundee United. Guys, it turns out that football isn't actually that difficult today. Is it, Paddy boy?
Listen, mate, I was privileged to be there. I got a phone call off one of my friends, Harty. Big shout out to him. And said, listen, you want to come? Kind of last minute. I was like, yep, definitely. The return of Martin Neill, I'll be there. And again, Steve, this was one that I was positive about. Obviously, the getting rid of Wilfried Nancy felt as with that wee bit of confidence and then going in against Dundee United. I didn't expect it to be 4-0 and as dominant as what it was. But yeah, listen, mate, absolutely fantastic result. Fantastic performance. I don't think you could really say anybody was poor on the day. I thought everybody stepped up to the mark. And this is what we kick on for here, mate. We need to kick on. We need to just get some players in the door in the positions that we're short in and everybody sing for the same hymn sheet and just go for it.
Absolutely, 100%. I can't disagree with any of that. And this is the thing, Stephen, it just shows you, doesn't it? When we got to that stage, we hummed and we hawed and we says, you know, should we have just kept Martin Neill on? I understand that wouldn't have came with any guarantees. We rolled the dice. We went from Wilfried Nancy with 33 days of madness. And let's be totally honest here, it severely hindered us, shot us in the foot, and probably also really did jeopardise and dent our chances to retain our title and everything that goes with it. We then go back to the well, which is Martin Neill. He comes back in and we get an instant hit. But as Paddy says, it's about kicking on, it's about moving on, and it'll count for nothing unless this board back him in this transfer window and we can continue those all the way through. But nonetheless, with all that said, it's exactly what you want, and to start off as you mean to go on.
I only have one question after yesterday's game, okay? That's now not once, but twice. Martin Neill has taken over what was an entirely flat team. Yeah. Under Brendan, we were still getting results, but the play on the park, you know, passing backwards and forwards, it looked flat. Brendan goes, Martin comes in. Straight away, you can see that wee bit of extra confidence, that bit of swagger. Now, bearing in mind, you know, he wasn't playing with what you would class as his strongest team due to the injuries.
Yep.
He gets his, 7 wins out of 8 in his first spell. The 33 days, right? You know, we've talked about that ad infinitum. He comes in again. And yesterday's performance now, you know, looking at the stats, Paddy, obviously the roving reporter that was there, it just looked again. How does Martin Neill raise players from being so flat to being, you know, what we saw on the park yesterday? That's just, it's amazing how he can just lift a whole squad.
And absolutely.
You know,
we've seen it the last time, like you say, Stevie. When he came back, the players gave that extra 10%, and I highlighted Arnie Engels the first time because you seen Arnie Engels going for 50-50s. You seen him getting in, gritting his teeth, and going in for tackles. Never put a pass wrong. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know what I mean? You see these guys giving that wee bit more, and I think obviously I'd said it on here. Wilfried Nancy was guilty of overcoaching players. Trying to ask too much. Martin Neill simplifies it all the time. And listen, the players they're good footballers. They know what their job is. You just need a chance to go out and do that. And I think they were given it.
No, definitely. You know, I think we're universal on that here. You know, by saying it's simple football, by saying it's back to basics, it's not detracting. It's not taking away from the job that Martin Neill and co are doing. It's just pointing out the obvious. It says overcoaching, overcomplicating, trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to revolutionise rather than, as he says, make mild nuances to something that was already working. As you reap what you sow, and he laid his bed and he had to pay the price ultimately. But we can be happy and we can move forward, and we've got a decent performance to talk about. Let's not be honest, kid ourselves on. Was it absolutely perfect? No, it wasn't. But there's no much to complain about in a 4-0, by the way. Lots of good performances, lots of positives, and we'll talk to them. But before we do, as always, the housekeeping at the front end, we always say welcome back to the channel. If you are a continued subscriber, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. The numbers are growing, and it's all thanks to every one of you out there. If you want to be a member, help the channel, you can, like the Bold 420, the original, the first, the founding father, if you will, of the membership. You can do it. It's a wee donation, helps all the overheads. No additional content. As we always say, everything we do here is free, so there's no reason not to subscribe. You can help the channel. Of course, get all the other social media links down below. And if you like it, the big thumbs up. Go and tell some people. And I'm aware as well, you'll probably notice Paddy might talk. He's on silent. We're also streaming simultaneously to our TikTok. So to everybody that can hear me on TikTok, welcome to all yous as well. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and bring these two channels together. The numbers are high there. In fact, they're higher on TikTok than they're here. But if you want to see and hear and get involved properly with the chat, migrate over, please, over to TikTok. Over to TikTok. Get your body over for TikTok onto ourselves at YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, and you can be part of this growing community. So, guys, let's get down to business, as we say. Let's just jump straight in about it. We're up against Dundee United. As we say, as we know, there was an opportunity after that dismal defeat against Dundee United away previously under Wilfried Nancy. There was a chance to sort of right a few wrongs, a wee bit of redemption here to go out and show it. And by God, they did. In terms of the where we kicked off, Steve-O, there wasn't too much in the way of changes with the squad. It was back to what you know. Obviously, with Ario comes in instead of Ralston at right back, but it all feels very, very similar. Were you finally happy to see something that looked more like a Celtic side in formation that you were used to seeing under better times?
Well, the clean sheet really says it all, doesn't it? You know, we talked about Wilfried's preferred back three, and I think if he'd had Cameron clear of injury, if he'd had Sarachi clear of injury, if he'd had AJ clear of injury, we probably, I'm not saying that we would have been keeping clean sheets all over the place, but we probably wouldn't have conceded as many goals as we did. But again, we talked about Martin just does the basics, the usual, four at the back. The new lad who I only saw from the highlights, he looked to have a reasonably strong game. I saw him getting up the park quite a bit from the highlights. The back two, some good, strong tackling from both Trusty and Scales, and Kieran does his usual job at left back rather than left centre back. So yeah, that was the biggest for me. Going back to the what we know and what we love, and keeping a clean sheet, and that's all you can really ask.
Aye, definitely. That's the thing. It feels a wee bit more familiar. You were there, Paddy, when it came back and folks saw it. Were you surprised by anything that was in there? I mean, I think for me, just looking at it, I felt personally that Hatai really could have counted himself extremely lucky to win that starting lineup, considering his last performance against Rangers, which was absolutely all-time stinking from him. Of course, and then there was a debate. Was it going to be persisting with Maeda out on the wing, or we're going to get to Taneki? We obviously get, as we know, the more familiar setup where he goes for Maeda through the middle. He moves into Taneki back from AFCON, which I'll be honest, I thought was a wee bit surprising. I think it's probably fair to say, on hindsight, looking at it, it made a wee bit more sense because he didn't actually play that much in the way of game time, I don't think. So he would have still been relatively fresh. But the chats in the stands, where everybody seemed quite happy and content, and were you?
I was surprised to see Taneki. Obviously, like you said, Steve, was straight in for AFCON. I was surprised to see him straight into the squad. Dyson through the middle. Listen, it's the right choice for me. I think he gives you more than what any of the strikers we've got fit at the club do at the minute. So yeah, I was quite happy to see that. Surprised that Araujo started. I thought he'd maybe have got a Kobe Donovan in there. to start the game. But yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. I was very impressed with him, and as was Martin O'Neill as well. But all in all, mate, I think the only change that everybody wanted really was get Kasper Schmeichel out. There was a lot of chat about that, about him, about his, what we'll say, lack of fitness, we'll call it.
Yes.
We want the best, mate. We want the best for Celtic, and a 4-0 win over a Dundee United team is always going to be hard to sit and pick faults in. And we're not here to pick faults, but obviously we are perfectionists. We strive for perfection as a Celtic fan, and Rangers do the exact same. Of course they do. But yeah, I was quite happy looking at the team sheet, mate. Like you say, Rio Hatate, I think under Martin O'Neill is a different player. When he's playing in that forward role where he doesn't actually really have to think about doing much else, because Callum McGregor plays in the holding role, and it allows guys like Arnie Engels and Rio Hatate to be creative and to do the stuff that they enjoy doing. So I kind of wasn't too surprised about seeing him in there, but there was a few people around about me kind of questioned it, and I understand why. Obviously, like you said, his previous game against Rangers, he was a bit of a passenger. So yes. I think any player playing in that position, when you're given the freedom to do what you want, and that's what these players are given under Martin O'Neill, mate. They're given freedom to do the job that they enjoy doing. And that's why we're starting to see different results with the same players.
Yep, definitely. I mean, I felt personally, looking at the lineup, I was not surprised to see Maeda going through the front. I didn't think that the sort of soft spot for Johnny Kenny was going to really translate to anything there in terms of Hatate. Hatate was the big one. It was just like, couldn't get my head around it. And I wasn't surprised that we didn't see Tony Ralston come in, because let's be honest, Araujo, no matter what you want to say about him, there's no doubt that he's simply a better player than Tony Ralston. He's going to be a lot more mobile and maybe offer you a lot bit more attacking there. But there was many, many good performances in the game so far, and I want to just sort of jump into some of them. And the first is, let's just jump with it, because it was Yang, that first half against Rangers, a week over, it was absolutely phenomenal, Stevie. Listen, I don't care what you say. This isn't me trying to be, just doubling down. I'm not in the Yang gang, no having it, right? I'm enjoying the ride whilst it's there. I will take the positives, right? But I'm not going to get my wee eyes all blurred up by a couple of good performances. Go and do it every week. Go and do it between now and the end of the season, and then we'll have a conversation, right? Because he could be red raw against Falkirk during the week, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happened, right? Such is the inconsistency of the man. But let's give him his flowers. Yeah. Stevie, you can't argue with it. I can't argue with it. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm not trying to argue with it. Yang has been on a wee bit of form lately. Yeah. And who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? He is the guy that we are depending to be. Paddy's just saying it because he wants to get on side him.
Well, that's the thing. See when any player goes through a run of good form, he's not just contributing assists, he's scoring goals as well. His goal against Rangers was absolutely fantastic. You've got to just turn around and say, this is a guy who has got a bit of confidence, whether that's down to, again, working under Martin and his coaches, gives players that extra wee boost in terms of their own self-confidence. So see, while he's running through this run of form, let it go. If you need to give credit where credit is due, as you say, if you're going to judge him over the entire season, then fair enough. We'll point to some where he's not been involved, he's not. But while the guy is our go-to guy at the moment, then just get behind him and say, every game that goes past where you're contributing, whether it, as I say, whether it's assists, whether it's goals, then just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. He looks right up for it. He looks dangerous. And also, I've got to be honest, one thing he's added as well is that defensive bit. Now, I know that under the terrible Wilfried Nancy system, you'd know choice but to do a wee bit more defending. But even before that, even under Martin Neill, that was obviously something that he had started to sort of bring into his game, where he was getting a wee bit more physical, he was getting himself involved, he was trying to win the ball back, and anytime he was losing it, he was chasing after and trying to put in the groundwork. That's as much as you can ask, and particularly as well. Now, I know that on the flip side of it as well, I know that you were watching, Paddy, you were there, I want to sort of get both of your thoughts on it. There was a lot of praise for Tanecki coming back, and he looks lively, and the only thing missing from his game was a goal. Again, not to down on it, but that's the story of Tanecki. So at least at this moment in time, I am happy that there's one of the wingers who you can, not, I wouldn't say guarantee, but you would expect to influence the game from either an assisting or a scoring standpoint. Now, are we going to suddenly get the magic beans fed to Tanecki? And do you think that there's a high chance or any chance that we might get a Yang type effect onto him? Because we could really be doing away it on both sides, could we not?
I think if you push Tanecki in that role and tell him to hit the byline, I mean, we were sitting beside a few boys and I'm like, oh, look, Tanecki here, 50 quid that he cuts inside, and sure as God, he cut inside. But then after that, a couple of times he actually drove for the byline and he put in the ball, put in a couple of decent crosses, which is what we're after from him. It reminds me of Aidan McGeady. He'll beat 5 players and kick the ball out the park. He's that type of player. He's got all the ability, but no clue. Do you know what I mean? He's just one of these guys, and he cuts inside, and you know he's always going to have a dig when he cuts inside. That's exactly what he's trying to do. He's just got that wee bit about him. Whereas I want my wingers to be more direct. I want them to be like Maeda. Bomb for the byline, scud the ball across, hoping that there's a striker there, hoping that there's somebody going to get on the end of it. Even when we get Jota back, I know Jota does have the skill and the ability to cut inside and have that shot. And he's another upgrade on Tanecki in that way as well. Because Jota, he's the type of player where he doesn't even know what he's going to do next. So how's the defender going to know? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of, he's always, whether he's a step ahead or he's just not got a clue and he just does what feels natural at that time. But I think Jota's an upgrade on Tanecki, and it'll be nice to see that when he comes back as well.
I think Jota seems quite a way off in terms of that return, so we're going to have to sort of make the best of what we've got there. But yeah, definitely, it's good to have him back. Can't wait for Balikwisha to come back and all. It'll be good to have him back, like a new signing. He said jokingly, "Don't take that one seriously," because nobody can take that man serious. But no, like there's a lot of good performances. Another guy I think we've got to highlight early on is Arne Engels. I find this amazing, Paddy. Obviously, I'll go down to Stevie on this, but I'm talking about this sort of just as a rhetorical, because I ain't the biggest fan of Yang, yet he's doing a job. And again, you're not the biggest fan of Engels, but yet he's doing a job again. Yeah. Is it really just as simple as playing guys in their best position in a simple, non-convoluted formation and just asking guys, go and do your job, Stevie?
Huh?
The Martin effect, we've had various conversations about this. The one thing about Arne, obviously, came in two years ago as, the club's biggest ever outlay on a player. That adds huge pressure, especially for a lad of his age. He came in under Brendan, and in Brendan's, kind of last, few months in charge of the team, it wasn't the same attacking flair. We did very well in Europe. We get the good run, obviously. But there was that thing about Engels. He just didn't have the consistency. You could see in fits and starts that, there's a player here, and he can get himself into areas. Bearing in mind, I thought that the one shame about Arne was he came in to replace Matt O'Reilly. And for me, Matt O'Reilly was such an effective player because he would wander into an area that nobody expected him to go.
Yeah.
And therefore was very effective because nobody knew how to pick him up. And because of that space that he made, he contributed passes, assists, and goals. Arna came in, and I think he was much more of a straightforward, I know my position, and this is what I should be doing in my position. He didn't have the kind of nuance that Matt O'Reilly had. But in saying that, he played some very good games, but it was the kind of the run of games. He kind of was hot and cold over the period of time. But as I say, going back to what Paddy says, the Martin effect, when he just comes in and says to a player, don't overthink it. If you want to make a run as long as somebody knows you're making that run and a teammate can fill in for you. If you want to play a pass, if you want to have a shot, you need to try these things in a game. Nobody's going to be perfect regardless of whether, you've got to try these things. Nobody's going to be 10 out of 10 in terms of their passing, in terms of their shots on target, but you've got to try these things. So Arna again is one that you've said under Martin. He seems to have that wee bit more grit and determination about him, and then the fancier stuff comes after that. Building on the basics and then doing the extra stuff on top. So Arna at the moment is playing well, and again, you're hoping that he's going to go on a runner for him.
Well, we hope so, and we hope we push on. Obviously, the game ahead, Falkirk, and we'll get Auchinleck, Talbot, as we know. Falkirk's going to be a tough game. We always know that. Very well organised, going to be a tough game. But we negotiate that. Hopefully, we get another positive result, and then Auchinleck, Talbot should be a confidence booster for all round. That should be a game that Celtic should be looking at to go and fire in goals aplenty, Paddy, and kick on. But I think it was really, really good. I think the whole first half performance was generally, quite well. There was one or two, obviously, we'll get through the course of the game, situations that were a wee bit sort of shaky once or twice. The jerseys looked as if they were going to be sold, but never really pressurised. And certainly you'd expect as well, just to caveat it, at home, you'd expect that first game back, the bounce, the happy factor back at the club, that the players are going to go out and do that. As I say, it's the game against Falkirk, a wee bit more sort of gritty, midweek, could be freezing again, could be miserable, smaller stadium, all those other things that go with playing teams like that. That'll be a bigger test. And if we go out and go and negotiate that with another 2-3-0 or more sort of victory, absolutely, you look at it and say, right, good bit of momentum, kick on. But let's talk about those first two goals, because the thing that I liked about both of them was it was arriving in the box at the right time for both, Yang first off and Engels. Not too dissimilar in the way that we've done it, but we're just breaking things down. And it's kind of a wee bit galling as well. See, as much as that, of course, I want to see a 4-0, right? And people are saying in the comments, the players down tools and that. I don't like using that term. I don't like it, but I think on hindsight, I come back and I says, I hope Wilfried Nancy was watching us. I posted, I said it, a couple of my groups says, this is mortifying for him to just go, look, that's all you to do, set him up like that, and this is more than likely the results you could have got. But also as well, a wee bit of me went, but it's also kind of mortifying for the players, because they're out in the field and they might not like the tactics, but see the basics, how we moved the ball about, how we got it into the box, and how guys arrived, i.e. Yang and then Engels to put away finishes. That was completely void under Nancy. So what is it all about, Paddy?
As I said before, Steve, it's simplifying the game. When you listen to Martin O'Neill's interview as well, and Martin was saying that sometimes when we were in possession, he was getting a wee bit antsy when the ball was getting kind of passed back and passed around, because he wants to be more direct. He wants to see more direct football, and that's what you imagine a Martin O'Neill side does, is that fast attacking play whilst keeping possession. Do you know what I mean? Every pass is a forward pass. The players are moving all the time. And you've seen that in parts, but then we still reverted back to keeping the ball, which I think was a good collaboration, shall we say. Do you know what I mean? It was like, we kept the ball. We were positive going forward. There was lots of movement. I don't know what the final stats were on the game, Steve, but we must have had about 85% possession.
I can bring them up. I will bring them up.
Yeah.
Sorry,
if we can get them up, I reckon we'd have had about that.
78 to 22, according to the BBC site.
Is that what it was, mate? It seemed more. It seemed more. Sitting at that game, at no point did I ever feel Dundee United were going to score. Do you know what I mean? Even in the early kind of minutes, like the 20-minute mark, whatever, you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, we're winning this today. This is going to be shooty in. This is going to be like an absolute fucking top draw performance here. And I just thought that every player, to a man, was on the same hymn sheet. They were all going forward. They were all positive. They all knew what they wanted to do. They all knew what they had to do. They knew their jobs. Whereas previously, Steve-O, when you look back to the Roma game, I know I brought it up before, Evan Ferguson, yeah, we knew they were transitioning and we knew there was players that didn't have a clue what they were doing, so we just highlighted them. Yep. There wasn't a player in that squad at the weekend there that didn't know, like what their job was. And that showed. Now, if we can carry on with that, if we can have these players in the positions that they used to play in, then it's game on, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought guys like Yang were brilliant. You spoke about Arnie Engels, mate. Listen, I hold my hands up with Arnie Engels. I really do. I was on here and I slated him every single week.
Yes.
Honestly, Stevie, if you go back, like when Arnie Engels came in, mate, there was people in the chat falling out with me and everything because I just never seen anything from him. And I called him out every single week. I said, do you know who the problem is? Engels. Absolute shite. Can he do this? Can he do that? Blah, 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 blah. Can he put the ball past the first man? 11.5 million for nothing. And I do think there was an element of the price tag weighing on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But now, I think with Martin Neill coming in and his man management style, being able to big up players, being able to make players feel 10 foot tall, see if he can incorporate some of that knowledge, some of that confidence into a player like Arnie Engels, you'll see a totally different animal. We've only scratched the surface with him. We really, really have. Honestly, I firmly believe that somebody like Arnie Engels can kick on and be player of the season if he keeps this up. Honestly, I totally see a totally different animal, and I'm delighted about that. I really am.
Of course, we want to see everybody succeed, but again, you can't discredit what you saw with your eyes, and you weren't satisfied. And again, yesterday's an excellent performance for him, but it'll only mean as much as that being his last performance. He needs that into Falkirk, he needs that against Auchinleck, he needs it for the rest of the season because there's a title by one. But again, come back to stats. We're not going to labour it. Yep, first half fairly dominant. One or two sort of moments as it were with the second, but 2 goals in each half. You can't argue with that. And as you said, fairly dominant. I think the half-time stats were far higher than this. It was well over the 80s. I think there was about 12% after the first half. But look at it, 78%. Look at the shots on target, the touches in the box. When you look at these sort of key areas down here as well, particularly the distribution, 270 passes in the final third. Look at the pass accuracy rate, the total passes. It's exactly what we wanted. But none of it, Stevie, felt as if it was possession and passing for passing's sake. We were safe in trying to keep hold of the ball, but it wasn't at the detriment to the pace of the game, the purpose of what we were trying to do. And that's the basics. It's to say, as Fozzie'd say, intensity. And they brought it up when I watched back the highlights on Sports Scene for all that you might think of them. But they pointed out and showed you a couple of side-by-sides. See the urgency when we lost the ball. To charge and go and hunting packs and try and win it back. That was there. That was good to see. The closing down of the extra man, that was there to see. But then when you look at it by comparison, I think a lot of the stuff what Nancy was trying to do, but it was more about overloads and position. And don't worry, you don't need to commit and you don't need to intensely charge because you'll be in the right place to just win the ball. Clearly, it doesn't work. There's a lot to be said about just blood and guts and a wee bit of hard work, is there no?
Yeah. Well, if you listen to I listened to the new lads press conference after the game, and that's what he was saying. So that's somebody new coming into the team. He's obviously not had as much time with the squad as other players, but again, he said, what did what's Martin been saying to you in your first couple of days here? And he said, Martin just wants me to go out and play to my strengths. That's it. He said, like coming into Scottish football, it's a bit more physical than he's been used to elsewhere. But he said, the important thing was if you lose the ball, then that's it. Everybody straight away, get that ball back, win that ball back as quick as you can. That wasn't what we were doing under Wilfried. And as I say, you go from conceding all the goals we did in those 33 days to coming back and a clean sheet. That says it all. That is the proof that's in the pudding. Again, Brendan's first few months of the season, You know, you could probably look and say, oh yeah, we had so much possession and we had so many passes and this, that. But they were side to side to side to side to side, backwards, side to side again, backwards, playing out from the back. It's a case of bordering on the Ange ball. You know, just get that ball as forward as quickly as you can. You know, don't be playing, you know, mad balls that are going to go in and, you know, give easy possession to the opposition. But, you know, definitely make sure that guys are knowing where their pass is going to go, but forward. And that was the thing, as you say, 22 shots over the course, 8 on target. You know, that's it. If you don't get the ball into the box, you're not going to score. So it says it all. I mean, you can break it down. You can send it to Wilfried on his wee board and say, you know, that is, you know, and bear in mind, you know, going back to a Dundee United team that got a result against us in a couple of weeks. It's not as if, it's been 10 years since we last beat Celtic. You know, they're looking at their performance a couple of weeks and say, yeah, we played well in that game and we know, or we knew from that where we could potentially hurt Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. They couldn't do anything in the game yesterday as opposed to when they played us a couple of weeks ago.
No, that's the thing. You look at the stats, they'll tell you again, we expected at home. I can't say that enough, but you really did. But no, there wasn't. Of course, I say there was, you know, one chance where we kind of get a wee bit caught out. And I think it was Scales, wasn't it, that sort of made amends and makes a right good tackle that stops him by a shot getting off. But again, that just comes back to that, you know, the comfort, if you want to call it that, you having the flat back four. Because see if that mistake happens in that 3, he's through on goal, right? He's through, and no Nurlock is probably in the back of the net, but small wins. But we'll move on and we'll steam through, because I know folk want to start talking about the lack of transfer activity, rumours, folk getting recalled, stuff that we've seen. We'll go on to it. But one other thing, just for that, first half, fairly Arejo, I thought, decent first half, decent performance in his first game at Celtic Park. Looks lively. Maybe a wee bit of the Sarachis around him. I actually prefer Sarachi, if I'm being honest. Just, I know it's only one game and a bit, but I still prefer the look of Sarachi. But still promising. However, I asked you this, Paddy, and I'll ask you as well, Stevie. I want both your opinion on it. Is he lucky with a yellow card? Because I don't want to see a Celtic player getting sent off, but I wouldn't have been surprised, to be honest.
At the game, mate, obviously we were sitting where my pal Harty's seats are, mate. They're kind of up just off the GB, kind of like the family stand area part. So we didn't have the greatest of views of it. But you see him going in, and he goes in quite quick, and the United player's down for a while, and then he runs over straight yellow. I don't think there's a VAR check on it. It never came on the screens or anything, so I don't know whether they did check it. But the United player was hopping about for a good 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Didn't want to put any pressure down on his right leg. You noticed that. That was visible for where we were, but I don't think we highlighted that enough. I don't think we actually put the ball down towards him enough when we seen he was injured. But I don't know, Steve-O. I can't really pass comment on it. I haven't watched it back. I've seen clips, but I don't really know whether it's a red. Not for me. If it's not been checked by VAR, then I'll trust them.
Listen, I'll take it. I mean, obviously you were viewing, Stevie, but did you think when you saw it back that he's a lucky boy and get away with one there?
Probably my opinion would be yes. I thought he was a bit lucky. Martin again mentioned it in his press conference at the end of the game, where he could see the boy limping after he got up. But again, a conversation that goes back to VAR you mentioned. You know, we've seen that being given. We've seen if that happens 10 times in a game, you know, we've seen 5 yellow cards. We've seen 5 red cards over the course of a season. We've seen VAR get involved in some of those. We've seen VAR not get involved in some of those. So, you know, that's the thing. I think he knew where the ball was. I don't think it was anything malicious in it. But yes, we have seen reds given for those before.
That's it. You just don't know what you're going to get. But he gets away with it. or he doesn't, depends how you want to look at it, but eventually he survives to about the 60 odd minutes, gets taken off. I think a decent enough performance, and as we say, the second half is good to come out of the second half and just to pick up from where you left off. That's exactly what we got there. No changes at half time, nothing required. We get the classic, it used to be 65 or 70 minutes. It seems as if Martin likes to move it forward. It's usually 60 minutes and we get it. Donovan, Nigrin come on, Arijo and Hatate comes off. Again, Hatate just blended into one. Not going to flog that horse. It is what it is. We get Nigrin come on, then further on in the second half, 10 minutes later, it's Forrest, Kenny and McCown for Taneki, Maeda and Yang. In terms of the substitutions that come on, do you thinking yourself, Stevie, did they make much a difference, or did you just think everybody was playing with a level of confidence? What we will say is obviously making an impact. 2 minutes later, Nigrin finds himself again, as he always seems to do, in the box in the right place. And I've got to say, it's a very cool and composed finish from him, because he's dead, he's under him, he's right over the top here, and he can slash at it or whatever, but he just takes his step on the spot, wee dummy, and he does well to lift it up and over the goal. It's a great finish, really, really composed. And by that point, this game's dead and buried. I mean, it looked dead and buried anyway in the first half, but it's signed, sealed, and delivered. You can breathe knowing that there's not going to be a resurrection.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the Nigrin one, the good thing was initially he gets himself into that position. That's where you want guys to be making a run to get themselves into that position. Maeda had done it a couple of times in the first half, got himself into that position, hadn't scored up to that point, but Nigrin gets himself in there. He's on the end of the ball. As you say, it kind of gets caught under his feet a wee bit, but he's got the presence of mind to say, if I batter this low, the keeper's probably going to save it. So he takes that wee extra touch just to lift it into the corner. Great finish. And then obviously I think Johnny Kenny had a kind of long range shot that the keeper tipped wide, and then there was the long range shot that the keeper saved, and Maeda ran in and finished that. At that point, I think he kind of had a frustrating day. He'd had really good efforts and either weren't on target, or the keeper saved, or a defender blocked, and you could see a wee bit of frustration. So it was kind of just he's kind of reward for the amount of work that he'd put in. So
you took the words out my mouth there, mate. Yes. You took the words out my mouth about Maeda. He smashed that one home. There was a wee bit of anger and venom in the face when he pinged
his
it
face,
home.
After he'd put it in.
You're the guy who likes to talk about the body language and how it looked. I seen a lot of criticism for him getting that. Didn't he celebrate? Wasn't he interested? He's no wanting to be there. I didn't take it that. I took it as when he hit it in the net, he just went, "Thank fuck for that." And that's where I was at with it. I wasn't reading into any negative, because he put in the shift. He looked more lively, looked at Dyson Watson. He says it just didn't come off for him. So I haven't got a problem with having a fizzing face when it goes in the net, because it literally for me was just like, fucking have that and walk away and I've done it now.
Yeah.
I guarantee
if that was the winner, he would have been celebrating.
Of course.
If it was sitting, we were equal, and he scored that as a winner, guarantee would be celebrating then.
I just get into the crowd, didn't he, after that? That's one.
It was one of the ones, Paddy. It was like, when I'm playing you at darts, I'm having an absolute shite, and then I put away a finish, and I just go, fucking take it board.
That's exactly what it is. So, kind of like me last week when I was playing darts, mate, in the doubles. Played rubbish in my singles, and I left 94 in my doubles game and pinged it in 2 darts. And I held in my get it up ease and stuff. I just kind of played it cool and went, I do that all the time, boys, and took my darts out and just walked away. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's maybe what Dyson was doing, just kind of playing it down a wee bit. Listen, all of the goals were decent, mate. They were all very well worked. The Benji Nigrin one, like you said, Steve, what a finish. And how many times do we see that for him? It always seems to be
right place.
In the right position all the time.
That's who you're wanting.
Yeah,
100%. And listen, there was people in the chat there as well, and on TikTok, and Arnie Engels was getting a wee bit of stick, and they're saying how many goals has he scored and what more was he actually bringing, and blah blah. Nigrin's better at being in the correct position, and he likes to do that thing where he just blasts the ball into the top corner, doesn't he? the kind of penalty spot. He's good at that. That's a kind of a thing that we get to see from him quite a lot. But Engels, I keep saying it, was brilliant in his own wee way. He really was. And listen,
who
mate,
got the man of the match in the stadium? Who got the stadium?
In the stadium, mate. It was between a few, to be honest. I thought Araujo had a good enough game at the back. He was solid. Again, as with Scalesy coming back in, like everybody looked good, mate. If I had to pick somebody, I would probably have picked Arnie Engels. I really would have, just because the movement, and obviously on the TV you don't see all of the off the ball stuff. Do you know what I mean? The positional sense and things like that. When players were going forward, he was dropping into positions, and he was.
Yang was the official though. He was the official. They're saying here.
Yeah. I know Yang got it, and I clearly listen. He was brilliant. He opened the score, and he was tracking back. He was getting involved with everything. I thought he'd done a fantastic game, but yeah, for me watching it, if I was watching it on the TV, I'd probably give it to Yang. Do you know what I mean? But watching it for that standpoint, when you're actually in the stadium, I'd probably given it to Arnie Engels.
And that's the thing, Stevie. It's nice, isn't it, to us to be sitting here and talking about a handful of players and saying it could have been any. That's what you want. You don't want just one guy carrying a side. You want performances where everybody, there's shouts for Scales there, there's shouts for Yang, there's shouts for Engels. That's what I want to see, mate.
Oh yeah, it's a team game. That's the thing. If Dundee United were a wee bit more about it, and we had to put in a really strong defensive performance, then you can always see, I never had any issues with somebody being really strong, and if it was Cam or it was Liam or whoever, and you say, no, that was a really good defensive performance today, so they deserve their man of the match, or whether it's somebody midfield, somebody in attack because they've scored however many goals. It's a team game, so you do need 6, 7, 8 players who will all contribute, and you think, well, I could see why you're maybe in for a shout for man of the match, and maybe see, if it's one guy all the time, then that's, you really need to say, well, you would then be talking about where we need to improve in the squad. But as yesterday's performance, 6 players who potentially could have got man of the match performance, and again, the Martin bounce.
Oh, absolutely, love it. But no, we're on out. Just one last thing, because we're going to start talking about the rumours and other things and what we need, and we need it bloody fast. We get that. So it's not to slag the chap off. It's not to give him a hard time, guys, but out of all the substitutions that come on, the main one that we're talking about here, because it's the big elephant in the room, is Johnny Kenny, and he's a striker. It's what we need. It's good to see that it appears that under Martin Neill again, hopefully it kicks on, that we'll score loads of goals from everywhere on the pitch. Now that's great. It's good to always not be dependent on one person, but the main thing, as we well know, is seeing the big games, the sort of, what will be the big games? Your games against Rangers and Hearts, those remaining games are going to be the big, massive ones. The nip and tuck moments, that's when you still definitely need a bona fide, certified, proper class number 9, because that's what you buy a striker for. You might not be scoring in every single game, but see when it matters, see when we talk about you get 2 chances a game, you need to put at least one in them away. That's what you need a proper striker for. We spoke about Maeda, who get deployed as a striker. He gets his goal, but probably should have scored before then. These are the fine margins that are either going to win us or lose us a league, and we need that in right now. Johnny Kenny comes on. He has another bit of a tough day at the office. Where are we at with Johnny Kenny? I think it's pretty clear that he should be 3rd, maybe 4th choice at best. That's no disrespect to the guy. He does a lot of good stuff, but he isn't the answer as a striker. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There's nothing really you can add to that. He gets himself into positions. Yes, he does. He gets more on target than are not on target.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, but as you say, in these games, in order to win a league championship or win a cup competition, going through all the different rounds, you need somebody that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. That is it. you can't just say, oh, he's so unlucky. He's had this and that. No, nobody cares. You go to the guys who are putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, look at Maeda's season last year. You know, was it over 20 odd goals he scored last year? And you thought, oh, you know, he's having a worldy season. You know, more of his chances were going in the back of the net than the ones he missed this season. It's not the same. So you're talking about Maeda. You're not saying that he's any less of a quality player than he was, but the question is, are we better deploying him on the left rather than having to play the striker because you've got nobody else there?
Aye. Mate, I've said that before. I think he's versatile. In case you're wondering why I'm laughing, I always love, obviously we bring up as much of comments as we can. I love it. He's a Ramonin. He's a rest. 2, 3, 4 Cheech is no happy. That's username 2, 3, 4 Cheech is no happy with that we're not complaining. This is how these things work. See if we just went, it's brilliant, it was amazing, and we didn't actually talk about it. It was so boring. We're happy. 2, 3, 4. We're happy. We're here to talk about what we need, because scoring 4 goals at home against Dundee is fine, and it's a start, and it's what we need. But there's more games, there's bigger games, there's harder games, and me, the guys on screen, and pretty much I'm sure yourself and everybody else on the screen watching, they know that this squad isn't good enough to get it done, so we need to talk about it. So
especially up top, Steve, like you're saying there, listen, Johnny Kenny, the amount of chances that he had, he's got to be burying some of them, mate. He's your main striker. That's his job. That's his bread and butter, man. And listen, he was nowhere near. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest. The one where he's kind of clean through just after Dyson's goal and he puts it past the post. That's horrible, mate. He's got to bury that. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's a lack of confidence or a lack of ability, I don't know. But yes, he came in against Rangers under Martin O'Neill and he scored a brilliant header, and everybody thought, excellent, we've got a striker on the books now, that's it, we're going to kick on, we're going to do this. And then he just plays again and he shows you why he's never really played at any decent level. And I think that's why we need to bring in somebody, not go back to Kyogo, not go back to Giakoumakis, not go back to somebody who's already been here. Go to someone who is a proven striker in the league that we're going to get for a certain amount of.
Well, let's talk about it then, because everybody's on everybody's lips. They all want to go on it. They've been talking back and forward. And yes, look, we know we need a striker because Maeda, he can do it at times. Johnny Kenny, fading. Osman's injured. Shin Yamada is focusing. Just looks like a guy that's won a raffle. So we need something, and we need somebody now. Now, that begs the question, what do we need? Now, this is one that's come out, and I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be negative about it because I think it's just typical Celtic garbage, right? Who am I talking about? I am talking about Mohamed Bamba. Let's get him up. It's a talk of a Celtic classic. I get that short term between now and the summer, it's, you know, the guys that may or may not be there in the summer, so loans make sense. We sat here, Stephen, we spoke about him, says loans make sense, but let's try and make them of a certain calibre. Now, Mohamed Bamba is who we're talking about here right now. He's in France, he's at Lorient, and he is, let's be honest, cheap. Now, here's another interesting fact for you as well, right? Guess who his agent is? That's right, it's Mr. Duhan. You know that guy that we go to when we need the likes of Kayal or we need El Hamid, we need somebody. I know, I've got just the guy for you lads, right? And this is the situation here. So what's he done? What's the story? Well, here's his entire stat pile that we've got from you. As you can see, he's spent some time out in the Israeli League. He's then moved himself into sort of other sides in Europe. And the total headline figures are 169 games. He's hit the net 53 times, 26 assists. He's got nearly 11,500 minutes of senior football there. Currently at Ligue 1 with Lorient. And as you can see, they're 25 to 26. I make that as 16 times on the pitch, 3 goals and 2 assists. I know that France is a tougher league. I know Lorient and one of the big boys. But going to be totally honest with you, it's pretty stinking, because when you look at it as well, previously a wee bit of time in League 2, and it's no really any better. It's 3 and 7. Come on, seriously, guys. Other than this one sort of decent season that he has in 22 to 23, it's all very so-so. Now, guys, is this the kind of thing at this moment in time that we need, or does this scream to you, you know, like many of the other garbage, the tripe that we've brought in as a striker and hoped it was going to work?
Yeah, it's one of the ones, mate. He's who we call him? Who can we?
What other guff Celtic striker can we compare him to?
Aye,
Let us know in the comments.
There's been a few, mate. There's been a few out there. Stick your guff strikers in the comments. It's no for me, mate. This is one that I don't know where it's come from. I don't know how he's managed to get linked to a team like Celtic, but he's nowhere near the quality that we should be bringing in. We need somebody of a decent standard.
Bio, there you are. That's the one. He's another Bio. A guy who's played at average shite.
Mohamed Bangura, Patrick Kamara. They're all
Kazim Richards.
Yeah, that's it, mate. He's one of them. He's definitely one of these kind of strikers that's going to come in and do absolutely hee-haw. Yeah, it's not for me, mate. Listen, go to somebody. I'm sure you've got the stats here, Steve, about people who are playing closer to home.
We will bring those
people
up,
have been chatting about.
Yes.
I'm not going to try and say the guy from Motherwell's name, but you've got Kieran Bowie as well.
Mashu and Issei, there you go.
Mashu and Issei, yep, the boy from Motherwell. Yep, that's what he's going to be known as. But yeah, mate, he would be a better option, I feel, than going for this guy.
Yeah. When we're better you out with this guy, Steve, as I said, a lot of commenters are saying as well, like, you've only got to look at that record or lack thereof, right? We're talking there in this season alone. When you've been on the park 16 times, now bear in mind he scored, it's the cup, so there'll be lower league opposition there. In the league, he scored 1 goal, but he has scored 3 goals this season with 2 assists, right? It's poor numbers. And again, I'll caveat it and say that Lorient aren't a great team, but you're a striker and you will always be judged on what you do and what your numbers are. I'll say it again. We sat here and we spoke about Kieran Bowie, we spoke about Masu and Issei closer to home. We spoke about the idea of Callum Wilson coming in. This seems like a very bizarre pivot and slightly concerning. Does it concern you in any way, shape or form, Stephen, that Martin Neill has come out and says, believe me, trust me, we are doing a lot of hard work on it myself. Sean Maloney's looking at it. This, to me, this doesn't look like someone that either of those two guys would be looking at. It's the old black book sort of Rolodex situation. You know, Mr. Doohan phoning up, by the way, I know you need a striker. This concerns me and worries me because this is the kind of thing, the old Pals Act, that I would be worried that they would bite at that rather than listen to the guys in the room. And Martin Neill's cast a warning to the board recently in his comments, basically saying, if you don't pay up right now and you don't do what needs to be done, you'll pay later, meaning you'll no win this league.
Mm-hmm. Nail on the head, Stevie. This is going back to the old Celtic mentality of they are being approached by an agent who says, I'm trying to get this guy a move. It's not, this is somebody that we've had scouted or we have had on our radar or whatever. We are seeing more and more of the kind of fringe players that come in. I mean, you ran through the actual full squad on the podcast that we did during the week, and the number of players who you would say, I don't think, you know, Brendan Rodgers or, you know, whoever, any other manager has actually said that's somebody that we need to get into this club. This is agents approaching Celtic and saying, I'm trying to get this guy a move. Mm-hmm. He's available. He's maybe coming up to either the last 6 months of his contract or the last year, and he'll be available for a bit less than somebody else. We shouldn't be doing this business. But year upon transfer window, it always seems to happen. Mm-hmm. We need a whole total revamp of our scouting network and our, you know, Mr. Tisdale has gone. So the next guy that we get in there and put in that position needs to be someone who is football minded, who is looking at, I mean, yeah, smell the glove. That's a very good pun there. Yeah, everybody else using Jamestown and we're using Lamestown. I don't even think that's the case. I think somebody's sitting with a game of Championship Manager and just putting a wee, oh, who's available? You know, put in a certain set of
2010
stats.
version.
Yeah, you know, and you're like, no, this shouldn't happen. We should be actively looking and saying, we know the market. You could go into Google, that the website that you brought up there, Transfermarkt. You can go on there and you can put in a criteria and say, I'm looking for guys who play as a striker or maybe in the last 6 months of a contract, because what we need, the club here, and I'll explain where I'm coming from on this one. The club have short-term priorities. That is the remaining games of this season, right? And if you get those short-term priorities right, you can then look to your long-term priorities, bringing in a more expensive striker who we're going to have for 3-4 years, maybe sell them on for extra money. But if we go the remaining 6 months, 18 games now of the season, and we haven't won the league, we risk missing out in the Champions League. We risk missing out on all the money that comes from that. And how then do we go into the summer transfer window trying to bring in what we class as quality players if we haven't got the carrot of playing in the Champions League? Or we're going to bring you in, and, you know, no player is going to come to Celtic, no disrespect, but no player is going to come here thinking going and playing away games at Livingston and Kilmarnock is going to improve, you know, my ability as a player and get me on the stage to the next. So I'm really disappointed that we're being linked with a guy called Bamba. But as you say, I suspect that it's more coming from his agent more than anybody in the club that's looked at his stats.
I mean, people are sitting and saying in the comments, you know, his contract's actually quite long. It's 2028. It's a loan with an option to buy. Usually, if it's a loan with an option to buy, it's one of two things: the player themselves want a move, or the club want to move them on. Right? And I get. And people are also saying we make players better. We have in the past, not always. And what I'm getting is, it's not to sort of just poo on the party, but I do believe that there's maybe a place for Mohamed Bamba if, and it's a big if, because that's the problem with our side, Paddy. That's the problem with our board. It's a big if. Getting him in, known Celtic, the Celtic way, they would just go, we need a striker. And they would go and pick the first one that comes in, say it was him, that's it. You could put in the bin any notion of getting in a Callum Wilson top here, maybe even stretching out and getting a Kieran Bowie. They would just go, we've got a striker, end of story. We can use Maeda as an option there. We'll still get Kenny. That's the way they look at it. Hate to say it, that's the reality of the situation that we've got here, right? But we make players better. Yes, we can do. But I don't want to have to hope that we make players better. I need something that looks relatively. There's no such thing as a sure thing, but there is a chance in something closer. So what could be the big chat here, and I'll bring him up, is Kieran Bowie. He's not everybody's flavour. He's not everybody's choice. We all know we are in a title fight. See where you want to admit it or not. Celtic are in a title fight. We shot ourselves in the foot with the Wilfried Nancy experiment. That's on the board. That's on him. And part of that's on the players, right? We've got to knuckle down, and we've got a chance to redeem ourselves. We've got a chance to pick this back up, do the right thing, and go out there and try and win the league and win it in style. Now, see if we go on and win the league, happy days, right? See if we lost the league, God forbid. There's ways to get down, right? This board, I've got an opportunity. One of the few opportunities I've got. It's the only time they've actually got a wee bit of breathing space, because this is the time where they can bring players in, they can spend money, and it won't eradicate their wrongs, Paddy. But at least they can show that they're trying to put right what they've made a messy. I know it could be too much, too little, too late, but it's still, that is the principle I'm trying to make here. So we'll get more in a minute. Look at it. I love how they all come out. I love it. They're trying to kid on if they don't think they're worried the fact that Celtic are back, because they would have all been tuning in the day looking for that there. But I digress. What I'm trying to say here, Paddy, is Celtic need to go out. They need to start spending and need to do it. Rangers are spending money. Again, I don't care what you think of the quality of the guys that have got on. Remains to be seen. But they've went and bought a guy for Stone Graz today. They've got another guy in the post. It's going to be about £8 million so far, 2 players. And Kieran Bowie, we spoke about them. They appear to be one of many teams who have registered an interest, right? Now, in times gone by, people would go, but it's all right to raise an interest because the thing's money. They want money. Guess what? They went and spent £10 million Charmiti. And yes, he's stinking, but he scored 2 goals against us. And that'll do all season as far as they're concerned. So see if the Hibs want 6.5 million, I can guarantee you right now, Rangers will give them it, right?
Aye.
Don't kid yourself on. This isn't they've no money anymore. They'll not do it. They'll shut their pants. See if they really want Kieran Bowie and he wants to go to them and they want 6 million or 6.5 million. I'm telling you right now, Rangers will give them it. So Paddy, the question is, should we?
I think we should, mate. Kieran Bowie's one of the ones that I've been championing. I think he'd be a great addition to the Celtic squad. You just need to look at what he's done for Hibs, and he'll do double that. He'll do treble that at Celtic. Again, like you're saying, with the lad from Neill, Bamba. I don't know much about him. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about him, Steve-o, but at the end of the day, listen, they can look good on YouTube. You can watch all these videos. He's not the one. I know he's probably done a wee bit out there. He's probably done bits and bobs, but for me, mate, you're wanting somebody that's done it in the Scottish League.
Paddy, this is a brilliant. Sorry to jump in. This is a brilliant point. Brilliant point.
Where is it?
I've just brought it up on my screen. It's saying, Paul Morphis is saying, Bowie's the closest thing to something that could hit the ground ready, oven ready. You know what you've got, albeit 6.5 million. It is maybe overpaying, but that's the market value. Can it be any worse than paying £5 million for the likes of Taneki or a Balquisha? The answer, quite simply, is not. Couldn't be.
Exactly, Steve. And listen, I know Majowski's at Rangers now, but back when Majowski was at Aberdeen and he was banging the goals in, and we were linked with him for, what was it, 5 million, and Celtic were like, no, we're not paying 5 million for him. And then you play Aberdeen the first game after the transfer window and he scores against you. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, there you go. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at here. Bowie's proven in the league. He's one of these players that will go out there and he'll batter in goals for you. I seen Harty in the chat as well saying that his boys on Football Manager playing for Falkirk with Ryan Harty. Get him in and all. Bring him in along with Kieran Bowie. I tell you what, you get 100% out of a young lad every single week. But on that, you need to bring in these guys that know the league, that know what they're doing. We brought in guys like Luke McCowan and stuff like that as well. Yes, Celtic fans, that's all well and good. But it's because they know the league. They know the things inside out. And they know what they're going to get. They know what it's like to go away and play in the piss and rain in the middle of December and January. These guys don't, Steve. They've been playing abroad. And is the guy Ivorian? Do you know what I mean? He's an Ivory Coast international, so he's going to come in and he's not going to want to play in the piss and rain in the middle of January, -2.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Of course he's not. So you need somebody that's in the league already that knows a wee bit about it. And I think the Celtic way of doing it would be bringing somebody like him in and then maybe getting a lone player in as well to cover the shortfall, essentially. And I think that's what the kind of Kyogo situation was. We were kind of looking at him for the shortfall, but mate, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to go back. And I know I keep saying it, but Bowie for me he'd be my number one option at the minute for the league. But listen, there are so many far better strikers out there. You just need to go down to English League One, English Championship, whatever. But you're not going to get them for 5 million, and you're not going to be paying them the same wages you'd be paying somebody like Bowie. So
it's a great point, Stephen, on this here. It's true. This is the problem I've got. There's a lot of great talent domestically that just need scooped up, right? It goes to say, see if the guy's name is Aldo, right? And he was playing, I don't know, if he was playing for Lorient in League One, right? Celtic wouldn't be worried to go and spend £6 million on him, right? Yeah. That's the point. There's a lot, and see, he's a guy that, see if you don't, somebody else will. Now, I would hate for it to be I would hate for somebody else will to be Rangers, absolutely. But if it wasn't going to be them, because let's be honest, even though their strikers aren't fantastic, they maybe are a wee bit sort of heavy on numbers. with guys that they would maybe look to want to get rid of. But I think this is the difference. I think Rangers would happily have a bloated squad and spend a lot of money because they know what's potential at the end of it. I've seen a lot of disagreeing around this where folks says isn't true. Well, it is true. See if Rangers win the league, they can go direct entry into the Champions League.
Yeah.
And it's an if. Bodo Glimt are just above them on that coefficient ranking. Bodo Glimt have 2 very difficult games in the Champions League. Chances of them amassing any points look unlikely. Rangers have had no luck in the Europa League, but it's nip and tuck. If they go, I don't know how much they would need, if it need to be a win or a draw do them or whatever, depending on the results swing elsewhere. They could creep and could be in the optimum word there. But in the event that happened, I can guarantee you right now, they will be looking at Celtic's shake that's went on there. They'll be looking at the fact that we are in a temporary situation, we're scrambling about, and they will do everything. They will throw a lot of shit at the wall and hope that some sticks. I hope they throw a lot of shit, none of it sticks, and they end up overspending. Of course I do, but the point is we can't take these risks. We've got to take control, Stephen. We've got to, control our own destiny the best that we can, and see if that means going out, by the way, and spending some of that money that you've got in the bank. They need to go and do it. And Bowie, as I say, just looks like a guy for me that can do it. Folk were criticising, right? But 8 goals and 3 assists in the league at Hibs, by the way, isn't that bloody bad. I mean, come on. You look at the goal scoring rate in our side. 8 and 3 for Hibs is good. And then look down at what he's done before. Is it amazing? 59 total goals, 24 assists, and 214 overall appearances. No, it isn't. But bear in mind, the guy's young and he's got all the key attributes that we need. Speed, power, he's got, a great turn of pace, good control, and he can finish. Give him the service, mate, and this could be another sign that sets us up for 2-3 seasons, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I mean by having short-term priorities and having long-term priorities. Kieran Bowie, 23 was that from his stats page there. That's a guy who you come in, you could turn around and say, he's if we bring him in and he scores and he scores and he scores, we could have him for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. No problem at all, before he then maybe decides to move on, or somebody else has a look at him or whatever. Another name I'm going to throw into the bag, and he scored again today, was Claudio Braga from Hearts. He is another player who I really like. He's done well since he's come into the Scottish game. So yeah, we shouldn't be discounting these guys because they're playing for rivals. Yes, of course, transfers within the domestic league will always, Hibs, Hearts, whoever, if they're the selling club, they're always going to hold out for that wee bit extra money. Of course they are. But we are in a position where we need, and that is the word, we need a striker who is going to come in and start putting the ball in the back of the net. Okay, Callum Wilson, yes, he's the short term, I think, having played in the Premier League. You're talking about a guy who, although he's 34, he's going to do you a job. He's going to be, big and physical. You've seen him play. I've only seen him from the highlights. I'm not a West Ham fan, but he is a guy who, again, will come in. The kind of service that he will get as a Celtic striker. So you turn around, he's not going to cost you a fee. He's only going to cost you 6 months' wages. And as a wee sweetener, I would be saying, we'll give you the option of an extra year's contract, because then you might want to bring your family up and whatever. So that's that's the sort of thing. If you were to bring in Callum Wilson and either Kieran Bowie, or go for Claudio Braga, or the boy from Motherwell that we can't pronounce his name, that's the short term and the long term. But we need.
Can I jump in on that?
We need. Yeah, crack on.
When you talk about Callum Wilson, mate, I understand, right? A player of Callum Wilson's calibre would be brilliant at Celtic. Of course it would. It would bang them, and it's a kind of Jamie Vardy type player. And when players like that are linked, the only thing that worries me is the age there. When you're saying he's got a 36-year-old. For me, as a striker, when you're getting to that age, 36 is all right, you're bringing a striker up for a year.
No,
2 years.
Cal Wilson
34, I think he is.
34, is he?
He's 33. You're a mile off, man.
Yeah.
He's been out injured though, isn't he, as well?
No, he's been playing 18 games this season.
He's featured in 18 games with 4 goals, I think it is, this season. But it's, again, it's purely the fact that he's available on a free. This is the kind of balance thing. If you ask me if I was willing to pay money for Callum Wilson, I would say no. A transfer fee. If we're getting him for a free 6 months worth of wages, yeah, we've had Craig Bellamy up here, we've had Robbie Keane up here on short-term deals. Somebody that is physically fit enough to play in the Premier League must be classed as even the boy from Lorient, even though he's younger. It's who do you want to go for? As I say, I see a kind of short-term need, somebody who's going to be an impact player in the short term, with Kieran Bowen coming through as well, or Braga, or whoever you want to throw in there. So I'm just trying to balance it out. Jamie Vardy, I thought would have been a cracking signing as well, despite his age. So, I'm not disagreeing with you, Paddy. You're absolutely right, where you are taking a bit of a punt on his age and his fitness level. I'm not discounting that at all. So,
guys, see to bring it home on some of the points. I'm reading through some of the comments as well, right? That we've got to be all over mixed opinions. That's perfectly. That's what makes these great conversations. What I do want to point out though is, right, and this again, we're never here to say we're right, you're wrong, and vice versa. You're not right, and because you're saying it makes us wrong. What I would say is we need to funnel in on where we're at. Now, nearly 100 million in the bank, and you want him, garbage crap, this and that, right? Let's lose a wee bit of the snobbery and get back to reality where we are. We're in a dogfight, okay? Yeah. Now, again, the term I used is sure things. There is no such thing as a sure thing, right? Now, Dolberg, let's use him as the example. 100 million in the bank, Dolberg, that's what we need. Look at the pedigree, look at the background, that's that. Pin your hopes on him. Didn't happen with all the money in the bank, right? Not Champions League player. Celtic at this moment in time, fuck all chance to get in the Champions League. Celtic are not a Champions League team right now. Nowhere near it, all right? So let's just get back to base camp and think, what will get us to win this league?
Yeah.
What will let us win this league? Bodies on the pitch that are better, or it'll supplement what we've got to get a job done, because it's a temporary setup. I can't stress that enough. Yes, it'll be great. It'd be amazing if we go out and let's just say Dolberg was the guy. We went and signed him now because he's going to be a long-term striker. I'm all for it. Hopefully that will happen. But right now, when Nancy's been sacked and we've tore up whatever mess that it was of a transfer strategy or background operation that we had, that's all in the bin now. We are, if you thought we were stabbing in the dark and clutching at straws, we're doing that. The only difference is we've got Martin Neill and Maloney who've got their eyes open and trying to damage control. So, yes, I want better grade players than Massey and Issy. I want better grade players than Bamba or Bowie. Absolutely, 100%, no doubt about it. But at this moment in time, do I think one or more of those players coming in do the job to allow us to get that summer, to maybe approach it the way that we should have done, to get in those Champions League players to get us and push us on? Yes. Let's remember when we brought in, I keep saying it, Hartley and Robson at a similar point where we needed bodies in that hit the ground running, improve us, make us better, know the league and get us over the line. And it worked then, it can work again. Look at when we go and get a Scott McDonald, unfancied, comes in and looks what he does. There's places for this. I'm not saying the names that we are talking about are the be-all and end-all and the height of our ambitions. No, but they're a start, and I think that it's going to help us, Paddy, for the now, and then we'll worry about the summer when it comes.
That's it, mate. Listen, we need to strengthen in about 4 or 5 positions on that fucking team. You look at it, mate, and it fills you with fear. Up front, we've got nothing. We're playing Dyson Maeda through the middle just because we have to. Basically, not because Dyson wants to play there, as he said before he does, but listen, he's more suited on the wing, in my opinion. I'd rather have Dyson bombing it down the byline than playing through the middle. I'd rather have an actual striker.
Tell us who you want then, mate. Tell us.
I'd rather have somebody in there.
Hit us with names, just to bring out, hit us with names. Genuinely, I'm not being funny. Anybody that's watching, we're only talking about what's in front of us because that's the rumours that are out there. But if you've all got great names and better ideas, let us know and we'll discuss them because that's what
I
we
said
want
that
to
the
know.
other day, Steve.
People will ask us and we say, I don't want that. They'll say, well, who do you want, Steve? And I'll always try to give you something. Sorry, mate,
I'm saying the other day, mate, everybody's jumping in and saying, we'll go for Kyogo, we'll go for this, we'll go for that, blah, blah. And I'm like, why do we just keep going back? There are other strikers out there. Do you know what I mean? There are more strikers than Kyogo. There are more strikers than Giakoumakis. Yes, it's people that we've all seen. It's people that we know that would come in. Yeah, Kyogo scored the other night. Brilliant. Good for Kyogo. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's amazing.
It was a decent goal against Gough.
Aye, fair play. Decent goal against Clacknacord and Stanklifters or whoever he was playing. Like, fair play. But listen, let's be honest, man. We need somebody that's going to come in. If we do get Kieran Bowie, I understand what you're saying, Steve. We need somebody else in with him. Because if Kieran Bowie gets injured, who are we going to have? Who are we going to have to come in if Kieran Bowie gets injured? Johnny Kenny? We'll put Dyson through the middle again. Do you know what I mean? We need to get at least 2 strikers. We need probably another right back other than Arujo because Alistair Johnson will be coming back soon, hopefully. You've got Jota hopefully coming back soon. Some players coming back for injury and whatever, but we still need to be bringing in because it's back to the old thing that we used to say, like for like, taking off somebody for the game and bringing on somebody of the same calibre. And right now we're way off that, mate. And teams like Hearts are strengthening. Hearts have got that now. Hearts have got the same team. If they take a player off, they're bringing somebody on of the same or better calibre. Rangers are doing the same. Do you know what I mean? They're going out there and they're buying. And we said this many, many times before, Steve. If Rangers had the money that Celtic had, they'd put the foot in the throat straight away. They would go out and actually spend it. And you're spot on. You hit the nail on the head when you say it. If they've got a chance to progress straight into the Champions League, they'll spend that 40 million and the opportunity that they will get in.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? That's the mentality of them, of their board, of their players and whatever. They'll go out there and they'll spend that. Whereas your board are penny pinching. You're saying there, Callum Wilson on a free. Don't fucking tell the board that. They'll be all over it. They'll be like, he's for nothing. You know what I mean? It's like Tamfy still game. Do you know what I mean? Sitting in the boardroom, just sitting there like, free, you say, does it? Aye, brilliant. Bring him in. That's what I don't want to get, mate. I want us to go out there and if we see a striker that we want, like you say, Steve, Dalberg, we missed out on him by about 500,000 because Ajax came in over the top and went, just come here, pal, we'll give you what you want.
And that's the concerning thing for me just is, again, I'll just reiterate, I want better. I want European grade players with pedigree and a bit of history on the pitch, a bit of experience. I want all those things. But again, I'm opening my eyes to the situation that we're in realistically, which is, can we get in? Can we pinch perhaps the best of the rest and maybe bring in some international guys from other countries as well to supplement that? I think we are now we'll be 12th tomorrow into this window and there is absolutely nothing. There's the Tabai thing that's just went a wee bit quiet and then we'll get these rumours. Other than that, we've got nothing. And again, we seem to be sitting still, regardless of what you think about Rangers bringing, what Hearts bringing. These are our rivals. These are the ones that we're in the fight with. And they're going out there and trying to identify what they deem to be the best that they can bring in and go and do it. Another name that's been skirting about again, I saw his name rear his head again. And I just want your thought on it because, again, we're talking about experience and this and that, but it's a balancing act. Like Callum Wilson, I think he's got the right credentials, but he's not a sure thing. You need to bring him in. That's where, again, come back to Kieran Bowie. If you give me Bowie and Wilson, I feel all right. But another guy who looks like he's an also-ran, that's name's flashing about once again, is Paddy Bamford, who's at Sheffield United. He's a name that keeps a boomerang Bamford. He just keeps on coming back every single time there's a transfer window. Again, Stephen, is this a guy that Celtic should be even thinking about?
Well, just in general, we've been speaking the last 5 to 10 minutes here, and the frustrating thing is we see our rivals being able to do business, and we are not. Regardless of the names, the frustrating thing for the fans is Hearts have been able to bring players in. Rangers have been able to bring players in. St Johnstone have been able to bring players. Everybody and their mother is able to bring players in, with the exception of us. So what are we? What exactly are we doing wrong? you know, this is the thing. That's what we're looking at and saying, come on, you know, I personally don't believe that with all the strikers or all the players that are out there in world football, that we cannot bring anybody in, whether it's a striker, whether it's a midfielder, whether it's a defender. You know, we just want to see business being done. Martin O'Neill said, Brendan said before, Martin O'Neill said now, you know, these guys are saying this for a reason, and we want to just say we need players in. The board need to get their finger out and start moving some of these forward. Don't be penny pinching. See if you need to pay a wee bit extra. Oh, listen, we've got a kind of ceiling on what we want to pay for a particular player. Okay, that's fine. We're not going to get them for that, but we don't want to miss out from for £500,000.
No,
or,
not.
you know, like, you know, it breaks down on his wage demands or something like that. We are in a situation where we need players in. That is it. End of story. You know, we need to bring these players in. As I say, short term, we need to make sure that we are up close to the top of the league come the end of the season, so that we have the ability to go and speak to our summer transfers and say, listen, you know, you want to come to Celtic because there's a chance of you playing in the Champions League next year. That's it. So, as I say, you know, we're really frustrated because our rivals are able to do business, and for some reason, we're just getting rumours. I
mean, that is twofold. That might be partly because they've got an element of something that resembles stability. They obviously got rid of the old, and they've got a constant manager, and they kind of know where they are. So they're a couple of weeks behind us, ahead of us in terms of a couple of months actually, in terms of their preparation, because they've had something in place. That is what it is. But again, that just comes back to the mismanagement of Celtic and how we shoot ourselves in the foot. But Paddy, in terms of this, just to bring it all round, another thing that's happening is, and I'll be honest, I'm quite surprised with it, is that Stephen Welsh has been recalled from Motherwell. Now, folk are taking that at face value of, brought him back, that means it's not going to be a defender or extra, this that we need. I'll be honest with you, I think he's been brought back to be hopefully used as a mate weight for a move for somebody else.
I hope so, mate. Stephen is one of these guys, a local boy. We want him to do well, but in my opinion, isn't the calibre of player that Celtic should be bringing back to have in there. If he shouldn't be kind of making appearances for Celtic, in my opinion. I think, like you say, Steve, he's been brought in just to be used as a weight against bringing somebody else in. I've seen links as well. Apparently, he was linked with Aberdeen. Aberdeen were after him, apparently. So
yes, aye,
yeah. If that's the case, mate, then that's all fine and well. Get him off the books. Get some dough in there. But then, who are we bringing in? Because let's face it, we need probably another two centre halves if we're going to be playing a 4-3-3 formation. Sorry, we're going to need centre half cover because we don't actually have that at the minute. We've got Scales, Carter Vickers, and Trusty. Big Dane Murray obviously in there, but yeah, he's not really proven himself by coming in. But yeah, I think we need strength in there as well, Steve. And I think that's maybe why he's been brought back, like you said.
Well, I'm seeing obviously people saying, he's been brought back because of this. This isn't news. And well, you know, it's something that's just sort of tell me when he was running about in his last game that nobody had mentioned that he was coming back. So it's news to me. Might be behind the curve, but it is. But there you go. But and again, he's been brought back because he needs to come back to himself. No, he doesn't. Let me remind you, that Scott Bain, who was on loan from Dundee at Hibs, turned up to sign for Celtic, and he's on loan Hibs tracky and signed for Celtic. So we don't need to bring him home to sell him to Aberdeen. We could do that if we wanted to.
On that there, Steve, there's somebody in the chat saying two centre-backs, where are you going to play them? What I'm saying, mate, is you've got two or three centre-backs there at the minute, but when one of them gets injured, as we've got one out injured at the minute because we know Carter Vickers is made of glass, then we're going into replacements, mate. That's what I'm saying there. And we need that for every position, because I'm fed up taking people off the park who are doing an okay job and then bringing shite on to replace them. Well, let's be honest, that's what we've done all season, and that's probably why we're in the shit state that we're in.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we've kind of went round the houses. Let's have a wee reminder of where we find ourselves now. in terms of, obviously, we know the baddies played today, played against Aberdeen, they get a win. So, as it stands, they've played a game ahead. They are pegged, drawn even on goal difference. They are just better at the tune of 3 points because they have played one more than that. We still see Hearts there. I didn't think the Hearts were particularly good today. Craig Gordon digs one out for them there. How things could have sliding doors moment.
The whole second half with 10 men.
Aye, absolutely. And this is the thing, finding a way to win. It's up for us to pick ourselves up and get in about it, make the signings and try and improve this squad. I'll repeat again, the manager, Martin Neill, has come out and he said that he has had the chat with the board and he's told them. He said that before he left the first time. He sat down and he had a frank conversation. He gave his assessment of the squad, of what was there, what was needed, and hopefully that was going to have been listened to. Whether it was or not, who knows? But he's came back now. He knows he's got a job to do. And the board, not just owe this to us as fans and to the manager, but everybody, even to themselves, they owe it to themselves to try and get something right for a change. But Martin Neill, the big thing that we were all worried about was coming back and, would it tarnish his reputation, his legacy and all that. I said before, he's a big enough, old enough man. He can make his own decisions. He felt it was right. But this board need to protect Martin Neill's legacy at every single opportunity they can by giving him the best opportunity for the latter not to happen. Because it's on them if a great man comes back and isn't successful. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah. No, listen, I totally agree with you, mate. And Martin's one of these people, he's come back in, like you said, because he's got a love for the club. He's got this wee bit in his heart for Celtic that he's always had. And he says that you can see it in every interview. He's loving it. He's absolutely loving what he's doing. And he gives a lot of the credit to Sean Maloney as well. Because obviously saying Sean is taking a lot of the training. Sean's doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And Martin's doing, like I said, he's doing the man management stuff, making everybody feel that bit better, feel that bit, give that extra wee bit. What Martin Neill does, do you know what I mean? That's what I'm quite happy with, Steve-O, and I'm behind you 100%. The board need to get the fingers in the pocket and, like you say, protect this man's legacy. Because if he gets us to the end of this season and we end up winning the league or getting a double, imagine getting a double out it. Martin Neill have a statue right outside the front of that stadium. I'll tell you that.
That costs money, mate.
Aye, I'll pay for it. We'll fundraise for it, man.
Aye, a GoFundMe page. Aye.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much to every single person that's joined us there. Thank you very much for all you joining us. As always, we're well over 250 there late on a Sunday night. It's been a good return for Martin Neill. 4 goals, a clean sheet, and all those things. A clean sheet, imagine that.
Wow.
And here we go. We said it before, we'll say it again. What was the one thing that was good for Celtic all season? During our ups and downs, didn't really concede a lot of goals. Wilfried Nancy came in, went mental, and we conceded a lot of goals. But we bring it all back. We clean sheet, 4 goals in the can. Yes, we find ourselves in a 3rd place. But again, all these factors, we've got a game in hand. And the board need to look at it. They need to look at what they have caused by mismanagement, bad decision-making. And again, I'll say it, there's an opportunity here. There is near to £100 million in the bank. It's only going to be the 12th of January tomorrow. There's a lot of time, but to get the tide turning, to make folk feel a wee bit better, we need to get something. And I'm not talking about Tibby. We need something new, someone new in that squad within the next 5 days. There needs to be somebody by Friday. That's where I'm at. Somebody by Friday, they can play at the weekend on Sunday to lift the spirits and really inject a bit of positivity into this, guys. I'm going to ask you, do you think it's going to happen?
I'll start there. No.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no confidence in it starting. We are 12 days away from a game against Hearts. Falkirk, I think, will have enough quality to deal with that. But Hearts will be a big, big test. And I haven't any evidence to suggest that there will be any signing of decent quality in before then.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope we're proved wrong.
We'll see if there's some.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll be proven wrong, and maybe we'll get some folk out the door. Welsh is back, and yep, it looks as if he's going to move on. I get it, cancel the loan, but he could have still spoke to Aberdeen. I would have wanted that to be agreed and then cancel the loan, so it's just quick turn. I don't want him resting about. I don't want us haggling over the price. If there's deadwood there and there's plenty of it, get rid of it. That's where I'm at with it. And let's see if we've got something positive. We're all on towards Falkirk during the week. We'll be here to talk about that before. We'll be here to be talking about it afterwards. And hopefully, again, it's lightning striking twice. Another clean sheet, a good couple of goals. And then, as we say, towards the Auchinleck. So, plenty to talk about. And we'll be here for it as we always are. So, thanks again, Stephen. Thanks, Paddy, for joining us. Cheers. I'll let you guys get back to whatever it is that you're doing with the remainder of your Sunday night. I'm going to get my wee head down to bed soon because I'm back to work tomorrow. So thank you very much to everyone. Take care of yourselves. And as always, Paddy boy.
Hail, guys.
See you later.